Sometimes when they walk in, I say, we got a lot to do today and it's time to roll. We're already behind. So I'm going to say tonight is no different. There's so much to talk about, especially with poverty, especially with homelessness. So we're going to just jump right in. This one's called Persistence. Driving down Main Street, I see a man my age sorting through trash cans, collecting currency. Early morning, even the sun isn't awake. A few hours later, a lady in her 60s sifts through rubbish, revealing her social status. These situations aren't specific to Ventura County, nor are they only California's conundrum. Homelessness and poverty are seen in major cities across the country. How can we help the homeless? I'm so happy you asked. So, tonight, I'm going to read about this book that I've been working on, and as Phil said, this place has been great. I've been coming here about a year and a half, and reading every week new poems, new ideas, and it's forced me to look at this issue and then share my thoughts. And I'm really grateful for that. This is not only a book about how we can help the homeless, it's how we alleviate poverty, it's how we start talking about issues that matter, but I teach a communication class. So really at the end of it, a lot of this has been interwoven into just how we see each other and how we communicate every day, whether it's homeless or not, whether it's political or not, whether it's income inequality, whatever it may be, race. It's just how we look at each other. And I want to shift how we see each other. So it's weird after that murder. I went to City Hall on Monday. I was there with Kathy and there were a few of us, and it was tense. I had never been so scared to speak. But I'm walking behind the protesters who are marching up. They're marching up California, going to City Hall, and I'm literally reading my book. Like, what are you going to say, man? You wrote about this. You talk about having compassion and empathy, but we have a tragedy. How are you going to respond to this mob mentality that is engulfing our city right now? And so I used a lot of logic. And I'm just going to kind of roll through this tonight. And I'm going to start with mental illness and mental health. And I'm going to read 3 poems. And I'm actually just going to read them back to back, because there's a time limit. So this one is called What We Don't See. Mental illness doesn't stick out or elicit sympathy the way physical or visible ailments tend to. Broken arm? The thought of a bone protruding from one's skin can cause us to cringe, resulting from what our brain conjured up. But soon, they'll be patched up, fit with a sling and back to society. When we see them, we'll ask how it happened and how we can help. Let me grab that door, or I'll get those groceries for you. Carry your backpack even. So why do we fail to assist or feel for the body that does not look broken? Why is it that the only thing we pass towards the mentally ill is judgment? And so it's so hard to write about homelessness because, man, it's depressing. It's sad. I remember leaving the coffee shop so many times, just sad. Just trying to think like, man, there's 60 poems in here. And I'm a storyteller. I don't even consider myself truly a poet. I'm a photographer as well. So there's 20 pictures in here just to paint what's going on in California. So it's sad. And right now I'm like, man, I'm sharing these. And as a writer, you want this big applause, but everyone's like, no. And I don't blame you, and I don't expect one, because it's just, this is what we're looking at, and it's not pretty, it's not glamorous, but it's something that we can no longer ignore. So this is called Mayhem in the Mind. I remember reading it here one night, and it was about a letter that I had found crossing the footbridge, going from Front Street to the pier, and there was a backpack rifled through, and I'm not going to say 2 more because it's in the poem, but I studied this, and it took me about 4 hours in Palermo's to figure out a page and a half of how to make this into a poem. And I had never been so unraveled after a time sitting and writing. Please, God, end this for us. Please, God, blessed be in your name. It's not often you get an inside look at a mind that's damaged and disturbed. But walking over the footbridge, connecting the edge of downtown to the beach, I found a backpack rifled through, ideas discarded. Impossible to know the culprit, yet what was clear from her writing was her struggle. Thoughts written in beautifully punctuated prose, Her cursive contained a multitude of references to religion, all in an attempt to be rescued from the world she's in, full of sin. Now she's sunk into depression. I'm begging, please, God, please kill me and take me from my misery. For 4 years, come May 26th, I no longer exist, going through toil, torment, and treason. 4 years, struggling with a lingering experience that continuously eats at her sanity, like a small leak that drips daily and finally bursts through. Her pain's been pent up and then put on paper, writing as a release valve, a therapy I endorse. With no idea who she is or where she lives, I too talk to God and send her a prayer through a poem. And this last one wasn't even going to make the book. I just write too much probably, if that's a thing, but I was going through all my old pieces, and I'm just thinking, I got to really fill this out. I've been studying it, and I've gotten so much positive feedback from this, and it's probably because it's the shortest one. So this one's called Speak Up. Have you ever been so lonely that you speak just to remind yourself you have a voice? And that came after I took the train. So my buddy Roberto's up here. It's funny. So I have a lot of students in this crowd, and I didn't give extra credit. I was like, no way, you're not getting extra credit. If you want to come and support. And it's like, respect. They came still, and I appreciate that. I really do. And Marina said, man, is that the famous Roberto? Because I used to talk about my buddy Roberto a lot in class. And so Roberto and I usually take the train to Santa Barbara quite often. But this time I went by myself, and I got off that train, and I was super lonely. My family's on the East Coast, but I didn't talk to anybody that day. And as soon as I got off the train, kind of like what Phil said, you see people talking to themselves all the time. And then I wondered, man, sometimes you have to talk just to remind yourself that there's something there. And when you have no one to ever talk to, that's how things kind of get going. So I'm actually going to share some statistics now because I wanted to use a lot of logos. Kathy had sent these to me. So she's fighting for homelessness, for social justice, and the homeless count is fresh out, the 2018 homeless count, and it's reflective of where the state of California really is. So this year, 2018, there is a 12.8% increase in the number of homeless adults and children from 2017 to 2018. Similar to what we see in California as a state, 63% of these individuals are unsheltered. And when I went to the city hall, everyone's like, I don't feel safe. There's so many people outside. And I said, I didn't say this. I'm sitting in my chair just trying to stop my heart from beating so fast. And I was thinking, yeah, because there's nowhere for them to go. And I get you don't feel safe, but where do you want these people to go? So unsheltered is at 63%. The total count of people that are homeless is 1,300, 1,299. And that is up 12% from last year. But as I was looking through the data over the last 10 years, 2009, we had over 2,000 people that were homeless in Ventura. So we've seen a drop, and we were actually dropping the last 5 years. And then this year we saw this dramatic increase. In terms of, in Ventura County, which areas are most hard hit, Ventura comes in number 1 at 516 homeless individuals. Oxnard second at 335. So there are 2/3 of the homeless population live in Oxnard and Ventura, and then everyone else kind of rounds out. And I want to give you the definition of what an unsheltered homeless person is considered. This is an individual or family who lacks a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. Meaning that this family or individual, they reside in a public or private place that's just not designed for people to sleep. So when you hear unsheltered homeless, that's really what it means. In terms of the gender, this kind of blew me away. 72% are male, 27% are female, and I thought that's a lot higher than I thought for females. I see females. I wrote about a few in here, but I'm thinking I don't see them as much because they probably want not to be seen. Maybe safety or just trying to not be in the public eye. We see that 79% of the homeless are white. And in terms of the age breakdown, a majority at 30% are ages 45 to 54. And you see from ages 25 to 35, 35 to 44. They do them in 10-year increments. It's steadily climbing until you get to 54, and then it drops. And I'm sure that's because people die, because life expectancy is not as long on the street. So those are the statistics. I run a website, Happy Friday, every day. It actually started, TJ and Pia are here. Way back, man, 5 years ago, I've been teaching at Villanova, and they gave me no curriculum, or they gave me a rough outline, so I had to develop something about communication and speech. So Villanova, up in Ohio, yeah.
Oh, I thought Villanova, Pennsylvania.
No, well, we're affiliated. We are part of the Augustinian group, but I started this thing, Happy Friday, trying to bring in empathy, compassion, gratitude into the classroom. And I run a website, so although I don't have a lot of handouts tonight, all the links can be found on my website. I have a sign-up sheet. Put your email on there. I'll blast it. I typically write a op-ed piece, but it's typically poetry or prose every other week, or maybe every week, or maybe once a month, depending on what my schedule looks like. So moving forward, I'm going to actually read a piece called Public Knowledge. But before I do that, I really want to give thanks to Friday, to Phil, and to Marcia, who are consistently hosting open mics here. I really want to give them a round of applause. This book does not happen unless they gave me a platform to share my voice. Every week was an opportunity to write something new. Every week was a chance for me to own my craft. Every week I came back with something new. I never repeated myself here, and I made that a challenge. And I'm very grateful that I could just show up with 10 people or 70 people and share my story and let out what I'm thinking. So. And I'm actually going to say grateful for Anna, and some of you call her Miss Walsh at school. She helped me edit this book, along with my friend Sahar, who is actually in the midst of trying to publish her own book. And I remember when I gave this next poem to Sahar, and she goes, "Man, that poem sucks, but I like your idea." And I said, "Man, I'm grateful to have your feedback. We need feedback like that sometimes." And this one's called Public Knowledge, and it's about libraries. If you want a sense of what poverty looks like in any city, head to the public library. A building constructed upon the ideology that everyone in the community, regardless of skin tone and income, should have equal access to resources and knowledge that the brain so desperately craves. West Coast libraries prove pivotal to those with no home to charge phones, no computer to look for jobs and housing, no access to ideas other than their own. This is a safe space that provides temporary relief from the streets. In Seattle, I saw people passed out on tables while others rifled through magazines. In Portland, I witnessed a man washing his shirt in the bathroom sink. In Los Angeles, where the public library serves the largest pool of residents, I watched a man brush his teeth while a stroller was parked in the stall. I walked through the second and third floors, which were brimming with community tables, packed with people from all parts of the city. The police stroll through, looking for sleepers, looking for something. Letting it be known that if you aren't trying to stimulate your mind, then you're out of time. Libraries are like little communities. When we walk through those doors, our differences dissipate. Yes, some smell more than others. Some have extra baggage they can't let go of. But we enter to activate the brain, to get lost in a story that can provide hope needed to get through another day, another night, reminding us through the written word not to give up, reminding us through art that we are better when the community comes together. Reminding us with each stroke of the pen or each punch of the keyboard that the public library and the public are intertwined, our stories merging, if only for a moment, at a building where equality and equal access is and forever will be for everyone in the community. Oh, yeah. This one, you want to know when you have a community that's struggling with homelessness, and I'll tell you one way you can figure it out. Heat wave in Phoenix put me inside Starbucks. Coffee, lots of coffee. Bathroom break. No punch code or purchase necessary to use the pisser. Standing there processing this, it dawned on me. Locks and codes let you know which communities have a problem with perpetual poverty. For now, Phoenix is exempt from this. Sweet. I just have two more. This book is packed. I wish I could read the whole thing. I should have told Phil, but he was kind of rolling. I didn't want to self-promote too much, even though I'm live streaming. I got some promo here. I got promo there. I'm reading on Saturday at Bookends Bookstore in Miners Oaks for Independent Bookstore Day.
Yeah, Brian.
Thanks, Dan. So Dan's really good at that. Dan's my neighbor. Dan lives upstairs. I can hear him too, whenever he's up and whenever he's walking around. And Dan's a good buddy of mine. Roberta's a good friend of mine. So I did grow up in New Jersey, right outside of Philadelphia, and I've been blessed to. Yeah. So are you a New Jersey guy? South Jersey, like Vineland, bunch of farms, middle of nowhere. Oh, you know, okay, not too far. And we got a Westchester guy back there. Respect, man. I went to Westchester University. Small world. So we got transplants out here. But so I didn't know anybody when I moved out, and I've been lucky, super blessed to have a community where I live and a community where I go to school. Because our core value at Villanova, which is similar to where I went to high school, truth, unity, and love. And it's really helped me become the man I am today. But I hope to impact all my students. I love teaching. I don't think there's a better job in the world. But so thanks, Dan, for making it light. This one is interesting. So a lot of this book is interactions I've had with the homeless, because I don't mind talking to people. I'm relatively fit. I think I can handle myself if I needed to. So I'll engage a lot of people depending on the situation. This one, though, was something I observed, and then I interacted with this individual after the interaction happened. But it highlights how when the government's not able to help the homeless, religious organizations step in, and they have been stepping in. Throughout the state of California, a lot of religious organizations have been practicing what they preach. You know, they're about poverty. They're about helping the poor. They're about helping those that really need it, extending their hand. So I've been very proud, and it's something that I did not really kind of come to my own conclusion. I saw it, a must read. A must read for anyone wanting to better understand poverty in America. This is relatively new. It's called Evicted, Poverty, and Profit in the American City. And it's by Matthew Desmond, and he follows 8 families throughout Milwaukee. Fantastic. Basically, it feels like his dissertation because it is chock full of data. But it's a story.
Who'd you say the author was?
Matthew Desmond. And I'll have the book up here, but it's called Evicted, New York Times bestseller. Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal, full of data, and it helped me round out this book because you can only write so much about your observations. You have to have some structure and some meat to it. So this one's called Pray for Food. 2 men tatted up stand waiting for the prayer group. While waiting, I heard lots of talk about the Lord Almighty. At the depths of their despair, these former felons found something in Jesus. Then the moment of truth arrived in the form of an elderly homeless man asking for help. What would Jesus do? Politely and concisely, they led him astray. If you pray, we'll send food your way. But prayers don't fix the rumbling in his stomach. But now they had his ear, because soon he'd have his grub. Grabbing his hands, holding them tight with eyes closed, they deliver words from above. A long prayer filled with the typical buzzwords, Jesus saves, repent, sins, so you can get out of this life you're in. Amen. The prayer was over, and now he was licking his lips, ready to bite into whatever they offer. He holds out his hands like a beggar from the Bible and receives a voucher for Jack in the Box. Confused, he just stares at them, then the voucher. He can't eat this. With no means of transportation, how could he cash in? The 2 men couldn't even communicate the location. Standing at Horton Square in San Diego, they wanted to help. But these men of the Lord were only armed with prayer, and they quickly found out that even with good intentions and God by their side, it's hard to help the homeless. So I gotta admit, sometimes I get really annoyed when we have featured speakers here and they're not prepared and they just kind of start rambling and they don't know where they're going. I know that gets under Phil's skin. I'm a speech teacher. You better believe you have some sort of structure and outline. You better believe I practiced this before I got here. So I have one more piece to share because I know I'm on a time crunch. But I did want to speak because I'm selfish, but I think that this is a conversation, like Phil said, that had to be had. Buy the book. It's going to help the homeless. I'm almost at 500 copies, which blows my mind. When I put this thing out, I'm like, cool, 200, 300. I'd be stoked. It's been 2 months, and it's been almost 500 copies. So thank you. Thank you to everyone that's watching. Thank you to everyone here. Thank you. So this is the last poem in the book, and it's from another book that really helped me come to grips with how to write about homelessness. And it's a social psychologist, Adam Grant, another Philly guy. He's working at University of Pennsylvania. So he wrote this book called Give and Take, and it's the roles that we play in social interactions. And I'm not going to say too much about it because this poem's a little bit long, and there's a couple really long poems that were basically prose that I just tried to make rhyme and fit on 2 pages because I wanted to tell that story. And sometimes homelessness, you can't tell it in 2 stanzas. So I'm going to read this one, and it's called The Giver and the Taker. It started when he sat next to me. At a Starbucks by City Hall, he busted through my creative sound bubble with eye contact. Then he started his story. Taps the pause button. Before I share his narrative, I'd be willing to bet you've all heard a version of his story. You've all been asked to spare some change. You've all been asked for food or water. We've all listened to tales, with some being stronger than others, some more realistic, some too basic. It all boils down to how people ask for help and how much we can give of ourselves. It seems so simple. Someone asks for a little bit of assistance. We say, sorry, I can't, pretend we didn't hear, and keep moving. Or we stop and give what we can. But no matter how hard we try, we can't save everyone. We can't constantly give. Which brings us to Wharton's top-rated professor, Adam Grant. Grant gave us 3 categories, which we fulfill in social interactions. The taker, who helps strategically, getting more than they give. The giver, who gives more than they get, paying attention to what people need. And the matcher, who balances giving with taking, aware of what's fair. When it comes to homelessness, the matchers are at bay, while the givers and takers are on full display. Strolling around major cities, we're constantly presented the opportunity to play the role of giver. With so many people asking for help, we watch for takers, both on the sidewalk and walking beside us, trying our best to detect the needy from the greedy. In order to decipher this, the giver must quickly size up the situation, study the signs sitting before them, stop, listen to the story. Decisions are made in seconds since most of us are always on the move. We help the man whose hand is out, only to pass the next with nothing left. There are too many people. Again, reminding ourselves that we can't save everyone. This makes the giver more selective, which is both depleting for the seeker of help and the one seeking to help. It's sad. It's disheartening, since there are so many struggling on the streets. The only comfort for this is to hope that there are more givers out there. Hope that our community is comprised of people wanting to help, not knowing when we'll need the same from a stranger. It's the golden rule in action. Scratch the story I started at the top. You've heard that story. But here's one you might not have heard, one that highlights what we hope our society can be. In Philly, off I-95, a young girl runs out of gas. Dangerous neighborhood. The man sitting with his sign on the corner tells her, "Get back in your car, lock your doors." Floored, she sees him return with a gas can. He spent his last $20 to help her, a stranger in need. He's our giver. The girl, another giver, gave a gift in the form of a GoFundMe page, which raised over $300,000. People responded by giving to help this man get back on his feet, which proved Pennsylvania's top professor's point. Giving gives us all an opportunity to succeed. Giving creates compassionate communities. What can you give? Thank you.